Welcome to your Inspirational Astrology Horoscope for Tuesday, February 11th, 2014. I am Astrologer David Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, I hope you checked out my show, Spiritual House Sessions, from this weekend. You can download the live MP3, which is so awesome and high quality for your car to jam out this week's astrology and tarot reading, or watch the video down below if you want the visual whole entire show. And we are in a show, let me tell you. I mean, if we just go back to the last 6 years of life, you know, starting in 2008 as Pluto came into Capricorn, really here to restructure our lives and really rebuild so much. We have been going through so much. And we've got this Pluto Uranus square still happening, which is about us breaking down so many of our systems, really electrifying our lives to step into new roads, new identifications of self. And in my opinion, this is the kind of alignment that comes through to tear down your old life to build a new one that's based off your true identity, especially when you add Saturn and Scorpio like we're in. And I think I'm bringing all this up because all of that energy culminates to a day like today, when the Sun squares Saturn. The Sun in Aquarius, which wants to be electric. It wants to go free. You have to remember, Aquarius is about freedom. It's about detachment from anything holding it back from anything it doesn't want to do. And I think that it's so important to show that when Saturn comes into an alignment like this, Saturn is the guy who says, yo, it's time to slow down. Saturn rules the reality. It rules the time. It also is at a very interesting position today as Saturn has now reached its stationary position at 23 degrees, where it will be for the next couple months. This is where Saturn's going to go retrograde in the next 3.5 weeks. So we are at a very unique period today that we've reached. And it's big decisions in our life. The Sun squaring Saturn is usually a 3-day event that started yesterday, it comes today, and it kind of ends by tomorrow. But it's usually even more, if you want to give my crazy astrological opinion, this is a 10-day cycle. You know, this is 5 days before this and 5 days after this of big decisions to make, exposing lots of truth in ourselves, especially if you add a Mercury retrograde into the mix, which happened on Thursday night last week, which is pulling up our unconscious mind, which is confusing the whole show, which is making this whole entire energy frozen in time. I'm sure you're starting to see that the way that the astrology is working, as planets are slowing down, as we're coming into these really weird alignments, that we're all being exposed to a time capsule that we're going to be stuck in here to work on and play with and learn from. And it's getting to that point now. We are starting to freeze on issues, starting to freeze on parts of ourselves that this new story is starting to develop with relationships, projects, things we want to manifest. And today, we face head on the reality of what this truth is as we are digging deeper and deeper into emotional truths that we haven't dug into for about 30 years here. So this is deep stuff. And in order for us to be free and move forward into this electricity, this Aquarian energy, the big epiphanies we're having, there are truths to face. There are responsibilities to face. But more importantly, we have got Mars, which is in Libra, which is starting to trine the Sun. So even though there are these responsibilities, there are these checks, I call it, from the universe, we have got Mars, which is right there wanting to push things into motion. This, let's go. Let's push it through. I gotta go do this. I gotta do that. I've gotta keep doing this. And that makes it a little interesting. Especially as we have a full moon brewing in Leo at the end of this week, especially right when the Sun-Mars trine happens. You have to see that the universe is wanting us to really pay attention to things, but there's a fast go, especially because this is the last time we're gonna feel such an ump from Mars, because Mars goes retrograde in March through May. And in a sign like Libra, it really isn't about strong will power in our own directions, in our own roads. We're in Mars and Libra, a time of relationships, a time of really looking at our connections, that vibe with ourselves, and how those stories play out in our own world? Are we able to find ourselves on path with others now? Are we able to coincide with different people's stories? And there are so many different kinds of stories in relationships, and how are they all going to work out in our lives? It's a very powerful time. And today is a day with the moon finishing up in Cancer to really look at your emotions, as the moon is going to start to square Mars. But trying the Saturn energy, it's the emotions that we have got to sit in, the comfort levels, the expanding of our emotions, the optimism, the hope that has to come from security in ourselves, from what does feel in our truth, what does feel right inside. That before we can even have those epiphanies work out, before we can even have the electricity, before we can even move forward, there are some deep, deep emotional truths we need to come into certainty with. I'd say it's certainty because Mercury in a retrograde in Pisces is trying to unearth and show us the unconscious behaviors in our mind, trying to connect us with signs from spirit. And Mercury, even though it's in Pisces, which doesn't do too hot because Mercury wants to have the facts, it's still at least going to be fact-checking and looking and reviewing what soul says, what the other side says. And I think it's important for us to pay attention to the signs from the other side, which can be so difficult and hard for you to decipher. And it's our emotions, a feeling that's right inside, that are going to help you know what decisions to make. Because I feel that there are some very quick decisions, as a Mars starting to trine the sun here, but a lot to weigh out, which makes this frozen in time. That you have to realize that the decisions you make are what you're kind of about to push into this time capsule, that the universe, your angels, the universe is really going to focus on for you for this really big incubation period of a big story and lesson. That's, I would say, the launching pad of your 2014, and even on a deeper level, the launching pad on the kind of harmony you find in your life, the kind of relationships that you're choosing to reflect, the magnitude of really finding what your truth is all coming to this very powerful test and story. And we are all picking those right now. There's a big show, and it's confusing to understand who we walk into it with. It's confusing to know exactly what story to push in this story, you know, because we are going to all push our own shit into this. And as the moon trines Saturn today, I think that's the lesson, is in order for us to know the decisions, for us to know we've got to look at our comfort levels, we got to look at what feels good, but we also have the moon, which has been opposing all this Pluto and Venus energy in Capricorn, which, what are the achievements in your life you want? And is this on the achievement line? Is this based off the identification of who you are? And that's what makes this difficult, is there are so many angles to look at. And sometimes you can have two situations that side by side are so wonderful. And that's the issue with Libra, is, oh my gosh, can we try and make both sides work here? And Saturn and Scorpio is like, no. Which one's the truth, dude? Which one is the truth? You can't have two winners in somehow this way this reality works. And what is fair and what is true balance? These are questions. These are confusing questions in our life of what is our truth and what am I going to commit to? Because we have to commit to a story here coming in to the first week of March, which is why I called my webinar Frozen in Time. So if you want to download it, the download link is down below. But I'm sure you're starting to see that you're about to be frozen into a situation, into a story, and I know you're feeling it. I know you're like, ooh, wow. And today, we open up those comfort levels. And remember, the moon in Cancer wants to be comfortable and everything. And Aquarius is like, I'm out of here kind of energy. I'm all over the place. I'm connecting to everything. And that kind of makes it a weird vibe, you know, because Cancer is the last thing that has to do with detachment. It has everything to do with connection and rooting itself. And are we rooting ourselves in the correct areas, in the correct stories that will invigorate us and enlighten us in ways that let us feel free? So I ask you, What decision are you going to make? And it won't be simple, but look at this as a big check from the universe, as the decisions that you're starting to make or what you're choosing to really go through a big, intense cycle that, based off my predictions in the astrology, is one of the biggest, most radical, transformational stories we've ever gone through. And that the new age is all about using these stories to bring on this new age, as we capsulate our souls into stories that will change our lives forever. And we've been going through those periods, but this one is one that we have never stepped into while we're in a new age. So, I know there's a lot there. I know there's a lot to ask to yourself today. And I don't think that we're forced to make these decisions right away today. But before you do rush into anything, make sure that you process your truth. Make sure you go deep inside. And make sure that you face the truth that only you in an intimate way can. And I'm going to use this as the last example, and then I'm going to go because I know it's been way too long of a horoscope. And I'm going to use my very graphic nature because that's what the David Palmer Leo King channel does. Some people are going to laugh, and some people are not going to like this. But if you had to have sex with two people in a room, which one would you pick? Now, I know some people are going to be like, I'll pick both of them. You know what I mean? Like, woo! But if you had to choose, which one would you pick? And this goes into aspects of our life. If you had two jobs, which one would you pick? Now, those seem so simple because now you start to get into logic. I use sex as an example because that has nothing to do with logic. It has everything to do with your passion, your desire, your emotional desire, your hunger. And what does your hunger want the most? Check out my website, inclusiveastrology.com, if you have any questions or if you want to have a one-on-one reading. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.